2004 was a pretty memorable year. We had some great movies like Napoleon Dynamite, Mean Girls, and Shrek 2, as well as impressive tech innovations like the OG RAZR and the iPod mini. And of course, this was also the year that everyone was rocking Livestrong bracelets. But amongst all of that, we kept getting hip hop. And now that it's 2024, those albums are 20 years old. So, let's take a look at some of the albums that came out that year that helped to shape my listening habits and preferences in chronological order. Starting with Kanye West, The College Dropout. Say what you will about Kanye now, but his debut project was great. Sure, many people may prefer Late Registration or Graduation over this one, and that's totally fine, but you can't deny that there's some classic songs on here. Plus, I think this was one of the first times that I really listened to an album that had such a heavy soul and gospel influence and presence on it. Like up until this point, I don't think I really realized that that's something that you could do. Then we move on to March 23rd, where we apparently just got everyone dropping albums. Because Cypress Hill, NERD, Blockhead, Usher, Scatterman, Snug Brim, they all dropped projects. But also there's a few other releases that I really resonated and listened to. Like Idea and Abilities with E&A. This is their second project. And although I don't listen to Idea that much, I still really respect him for who he was and what he did. Because, I mean, he was mostly a battle rapper. That was like the main thing that he was known for. But he also had a way with words that helped to, show people that you don't need to be so upfront. Like you can be super cryptic and also make it sound cool and artsy. Plus, it was always fun to see him go on radio shows and just do freestyles there. I also think that he was one of the few people that really helped open up rhyme sayers to me, because I started listening to Atmosphere a lot more, A$AP Rock, and Brother Ali. So, shout out to him. Also that day, Murs and Ninth Wonder dropped their first project, Murs 316. I love Murs. Everyone loves Murs. Everyone is Murs' best friend. And this is the first of many Murs and Ninth Wonder collabs. And I think it just really set the tone for what they would be doing in the future together. It's also one of the few albums that I listen to that I'm going to mention here. I listen to it pretty regularly. And speaking of albums I listen to pretty regularly, Mad Villainy also dropped that day. This one should surprise no one. Hell, I'm wearing an MF Doom shirt right now. Even if you're not an MF Doom fan, this album deserves to be respected, or MF Doom in general needs to be respected, because of just the influence and effect that he has had on other artists. Like this album, like I said, I listen to it very regularly, but he's just rapping different here. I go way more in depth in a different video that I put out like 2-3 years ago now, but it's definitely one of my favorite MF Doom albums and probably the easiest one to get into for a lot of people. But yeah, I don't think we would have gotten people like Tyler the Creator or Earl Sweatshirt or anyone that sounds like Earl Sweatshirt now without MF Doom's influence. Moving on, we also got music from Dilated Peoples, Neighborhood Watch. This is an album that I didn't really listen to until more recently, but it's great. Even if you haven't heard of Dilated Peoples or listened to their music, you probably at least have heard of This Way with Kanye West, which, looking back now, is a pretty impressive person to have on an album, like at this point in time. D12 dropped D12 World, and while this is not everyone's favorite D12 album, you gotta love My Band. And then we have Lil Wayne dropping the Carter one, the Carter, and this is a legendary album because while Lil Wayne was already putting out music, and because this is his fourth solo studio album, the Carter has been a series that everyone is looking forward to since this album's released. Like even at this point in his career, I know I'm definitely looking forward to the Carter 6. Like it might not be amazing or anything, but I'm still looking forward to it. I'm still excited to hear it. Then we have The Roots with The Tipping Point. This is their 6th studio album, and while it may be a departure in sound like that people may not appreciate, I really liked it. You got a soft spot. I got a soft spot for it. Then we have Project Deadman with Self-Inflicted. Project Deadman is Prozac and Mike E. Clark, and this is a bit of a weird one because it veers way into horrorcore and isn't really something that I listen to anymore, but I just thought I would mention it. I think at this time I was listening to a lot of strange music, and I was like, you know what, let me just go and listen to everyone on the label. And this was one of the albums that came out. So I just wanted to bring that one up, I guess. Then we have Victor Vaughn with Venomous Villain. This album probably should not have come out. I wanted to mention it just because it was Doom's second of 3 albums of 2004, but I think this album was really not that great. It was pretty mediocre. We got some good bars on it, but Doom was not really on this project as much, and there was a bunch of skits on it, and it was pretty short. So overall, if you have to listen to it, go for it, but it, in my opinion, did not need to be put out. And honestly, this is not an album that I listened to until like way after it came out, because it was super hard to find. Like, it was a rare listen, and it only recently went on streaming. Yeah, no. Speaking of strange music and their releases, Cut Calhoun dropped Believe, and then also I listened to Most Def, The New Danger. Everyone loves Most Def, and even though this isn't his best album, I think it's pretty swell. Then we have Eminem with Encore. This is not really anyone's favorite Eminem album, I don't think. And you know, even Eminem himself considered it to be one of his worst. However, it did sell pretty well, and there are a handful of songs that people love. But then again, it wasn't that great. And honestly, I feel like it's kind of the marker for when Eminem started to fall off for a lot of people. And the last album that I'm going to mention here is Doom's third album for 2004, which is also his best album of 2004, I think. Food. It's a concept album. On the surface, a concept album about the things you find on a picnic or at a picnic table sounds kind of dull. But Doom, as always, does well to grab your attention. As with previous albums, he pulls in a lot of samples for in between skits as well as for the production itself. And I think it does really well to add character to the project and just helps build up the MF Doom character. As a first listen for MF Doom, I definitely wouldn't suggest it, because this, I think, was the first album that I listened to by him, and I was immediately very confused because I had no idea what the hell he was going on about. But after listening to him for a while, I've grown a great appreciation for it. It's just a fun album overall. So yeah, 2004 was an interesting year. And while I didn't really listen to a lot of these albums when they came out or as they came out, since I was in middle school and didn't really know music too good, I still listened to them shortly after, maybe in the next couple years. And they all definitely helped to shape my listening preferences and habits when it came to hip hop. Because when I really started going into what I wanted to listen to and kind of my journey of figuring out my music taste, these albums really helped that. They're albums that I went back to and tried to understand. Because, there's a bunch of artists that you'll listen to, and I mean, I don't do it as much now, but I would always want to know as much as I could about that particular artist. So I would go back and listen to other albums from them. So if they were like, oh, I have an album coming out, let's say in 2009, and that's the year that I found out about them and started listening to them, I would then go back and listen to their previous projects, because I want to understand them as an artist, especially if I like the album that came out. So, and maybe that's also why I'm a person that listens to albums rather than playlists or individual songs. But that's an entirely different discussion. And then obviously, there are way more albums that came out that year that deserve attention, but they just didn't really mean as much to me, or I didn't listen to them as much at that time or any time after that. So I didn't mention them. Anyways, let me know in the comments below, what are some of your favorite albums that are turning 20 years old this year? Because, boy, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of albums that came out in 2004. So drop that in the comments below. And while you're down there, Like and subscribe to see more rambling and content like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.